In this video today, we wanted to talk a little bit about the reasons why we quit being digital nomads. So we spent 3 years living as digital nomads, working remotely, traveling the world, living what I think most people would consider a dream life. But after 3 years, we decided to quit and to settle back in the UK. I recently did an interview for the Telegraph and about being a digital nomad and why it's not as glamorous as people think. And since then, I've had lots of questions, so thought it would be really good to put it in a video and to answer some of the questions that we get asked. For anyone that's thinking of being digital nomad, or maybe wants a bit more of a bigger picture of what the reality of that lifestyle is.
So I wanted to tell you how we became digital nomad. So we both lived in London, had good jobs. We had this great life, a flat, lots of friends. We brought lots of stuff. We were very materialistic. We've met whilst traveling, and that was a big passion of ours. And we felt like that our life in London isn't quite sort of what we wanted to kind of have long term. But to start with, we both decided to take 1 year break, a sabbatical, and Bex came up with an idea to do the Israel National Trail. It's a 1,000-kilometer through trail going from the north to the south of Israel, and it took us about 3 months. We started selling all our stuff from our flat, gave in our notice, left our jobs and went traveling. We started doing the hike, which was amazing. It was an amazing experience. We loved it. And then towards the end of the hike, we found out that we spent much less money than we thought we will. So we had some spare money, and we both decided, well, now we don't have flats, we are not in London, why don't we carry on traveling?
Yeah, and it wasn't massively planned. We definitely decided that after doing the Israel National Trail, we would go and do a little bit more traveling. We stayed, the actual hike took 2 months, and we stayed another month in Israel. And we wanted to go to another country afterwards, after that, to make the most of the rest of the sabbatical. But I think one of the biggest things that kind of changed our perspective, apart from the fact that we finished the hike and had way more money left over than we thought, because it had been really cheap to do, was I had been writing a blog or keeping up a blog while we were doing the hike, and that had started to really take off. And I started to get offers for giving talks and writing articles. I then also launched Love Her Wild, which just started out as a Facebook group and as a women's adventure community. That really took off, and I saw an opportunity to start organising women-only adventures. So rather than just sitting on a beach and doing nothing after the hike, we actually discovered that we had these passions and started these passion projects. And Gil was working quite a lot on blogging as well. He had a travel blog and was making various bits of content and things like that. And so we started putting our energies into doing those and kind of splitting our time between traveling, making the most of where we were, but then also, perhaps we'd take the morning out to spend a few hours building those, and that started to bring in an income. And so I'd say even before the end of that first year, we started to realise, because especially places we were travelling were very cheap, we didn't need a lot of money to sustain ourselves. So we thought, why not keep going, because this is great. Neither of us were that excited about going back to London and going back to the jobs that were kind of making us unhappy. So we kept going, and we travelled to all these really interesting places. Usually we would end up going somewhere because there was either a work opportunity, or Gil wanted to do his dive master at one point, so we went to Honduras and we went together. Gil did his dive master, and then we stayed in the country for a couple of months afterwards. And then in between those trips, we would generally tend to go back to the UK, and we're very fortunate we stayed at my sister and brother-in-law's house in between, and that just gave us an opportunity to see family, to see friends, and to also perhaps, for me, give talks or do a bit of work in the UK as well. But I'd say, 80% of the time we were overseas. So I guess one of the questions that we get asked lots is, what was the best part of being a digital nomad? So what would you say?
Well, it was amazing. The best thing by far was just being able to travel all over again after spending quite a lot of years in a city, being able to go anywhere we wanted, visit places we wanted to visit, learn about different cultures, and be able to be free rather than having a boss or a manager to tell you what you need to do and what time you need to come into work and what you need to do all day. Bex, what were the worst parts of being a digital nomad?
Yeah, because I think it's really easy to imagine what the good parts are. I don't think that's hard for most of us, but there is definitely a part of being a digital nomad that's really difficult and that you don't see with this romanticized image. And it's tiring, like being on the move all the time, sleeping in a different place, not having a routine. We've really struggled with keeping up exercise and eating healthy because obviously your options are often really limited.
Yeah.
We also, a big thing for us that we discussed was that it stopped being so exciting. Like we could go see like this amazing natural wonder or go have this amazing experience, and it just felt normal.
We felt a bit guilty or privileged.
Yeah,
for like going and seeing the most amazing things and not.
And just like taking it all in our stride and not being that excited. And that felt like a real shame. And I think really the biggest thing was we're both quite social and you meet loads of people and loads of interesting people when you're a digital nomad. But you can't get a sense of community because those people are always changing. So you're constantly meeting people, having to introduce yourself, go through all the basic questions again. And then just when you start to, build on that friendship a bit more, either they leave or you leave. And we really miss just little things like having a local coffee shop and being able to go to the cinema and to
have a
see
chat
friends.
with a good friend.
How did we stop being digital nomads?
We planned one last final big adventure. We called it Kicking the States. It's an adventure where we kick-scooted from Canada to Vancouver, all the way through the west coast of America, and it was an amazing trip. It was just absolutely fantastic. And after that, we agreed that we wanted to find our own place. We moved into Bristol, which was way cheaper than London, and found a house share where we spent about a year there before moving into our own flat in Frome. Yeah,
and I think the biggest thing for us was keeping our rent and bills as low as possible. So we ended up in Frome in Somerset, and it was a bit rushed coming here. We actually knew very little about the area, but we absolutely love it here. But when we were looking, we, rather than stretching and getting the biggest house that we could, the nicest house that we could, our attitude was that we wanted a nice house, we wanted it to be comfortable, but we wanted it to be as cheap as it could, as we could find, because then that would mean rather than all our money and resources going into rent and bills, it meant we had money left over to continue being semi-nomadic.
And we also kind of adopted this minimalism whilst traveling, and we wanted to keep it in our day-to-day. So if you never know if one day we'll want to travel again, we don't need to start spending months on end selling all our stuff and just having a clean house with not lots of stuff in it.
I think minimalism is definitely something, like a really big thing that we took out of traveling, because for 3 years we were traveling with one suitcase between us, and you realise you barely need anything to have a good life, and that detachment from wanting things all the time has been really important in this journey.
How did you find stopping being a digital nomad?
Yeah, I think I definitely found it harder stopping than Gil. I think both of us really enjoyed being able to it felt like such a novelty, being able to see friends again whenever we wanted, like not having to miss out on weddings and birthdays and all those occasions, and we've really embraced having a community and building, in a new area, so we had to build friendships up again, and that's been really fun, and we've enjoyed that.
I think it's kind of the same feeling that you sit in a home and you want to looking at traveling. We were like sitting whilst traveling and looking at home. We were like, oh, we wanted that back again in our lives.
Yeah, this is true. That is like the grass is always greener, and that's really true that you always think that. I think I did find the stopping traveling hard, and just this sense of feeling a bit stuck. I think obviously the pandemic happened, that didn't help at all, and then becoming parents, and obviously those infant years are really difficult. But I do think we have, more and more we're getting into a balance of what we were hoping for, which is being semi-nomadic, which means that we have a base and we keep our beautiful home here and our community, but then in between that we have opportunities to go off and do longer stints of traveling, even if it's just in the UK, going to festivals or getting a train across to Europe. So another question we get asked lots is, would you be digital nomads with children?
Practically, I think it'll be really easy. I think we know how to travel. We do that day to day anyway with kids. We have all the camping. We go camping a lot with kids. We go on adventures. So we got all the kits and all the equipment and all the practicalities kind of sorted. I think the biggest challenge would be that we perhaps may not have the time to spend on projects and work that we like doing, and we'll need to do more childcare whilst living here. We have nurseries or lots of community around us, neighbours that will take our daughter if we need help.
I think that's massive, and you know, I've definitely come to accept that as a parent I can enjoy being a parent and having children more if I can have space in the week to work on my job and passion projects and things like that, and that's something that would be really hard to replicate when you're traveling. But I do know there's, you know, the logistics, the safety, all that side of things, no issue at all traveling with kids. And there are people that do it and love it, and I think if you're the type of family that don't mind being with each other 24/7 and that's something you can really lean into, then I'd say it's definitely possible.
So that brings us up to the final question of this video, is how do we see ourselves, or what do you see our future?
I definitely hope that as we get out of the infant years, that we can travel a bit more and to find opportunities to be on the road a little bit more. I think that will get easier. And I think, you know, we discussed this, actually being digital nomads is more of like a lifestyle choice and an attitude that you bring to life. So even though we're not digital nomads anymore and we have a base, I still very much feel like a digital nomad. Yeah. So both of us have kept the flexibility with work. We can still work, we both still work for ourselves. We can work anywhere, anytime that we want. We live very minimalist, and we try to keep that flexibility and that freedom in our day-to-day life. And that's, I think, really the biggest thing that we took away from our experiences of being digital nomads, and what we're adamant that we want to keep in our lives really forever. One of the biggest things actually is just like not being afraid to do stuff different, because if you are a digital nomad, you are living differently, and you realize it's not as scary as you think. You know, worrying about, oh, am I going to be able to get a job again, when's the next paycheck coming in? You can get used to all that, and it's just about giving it a go, especially if you got the privilege like we did to have that opportunity. And when I say privilege, I don't mean that we have rich parents that paid for us. We saved all the money ourselves. We don't have a trust fund. We were just sensible with money, and we just choose what to spend our money on. And that was like prioritising travelling. So yeah, if you have the opportunity, go for it. I hope you found this video helpful. Please do like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comment below.
Thank you for listening.
And we look forward to catching you on the next video.